He is a producer for Fox Sports Radio, and I believe he does some other work here and there. He used to work for Mighty 1090 in San Diego. It's Brandon Truffa at B Truffles on Twitter and Instagram too, maybe, or is just Twitter, or what?
Yeah,
The only place they can find you.
Twitter and Instagram.
All
Twitter
right,
and Instagram at B Truffles.
there you go. This is episode 43 of Blindside Sports, and joining me today is Brandon Truffa. I'm Emmett Douglas. Get me on Twitter at EmmettNosi04 and Instagram EmmettNosi. Follow the show on Instagram at Blindside Sports 00. That's where I post, whenever there's a new episode, or occasionally I'll grab clips from the show and repost them. Brandon, he's a good dude. We're gonna have a lot to talk about today. And the first question I want to ask you, Brandon, we're gonna talk some, about you and then sports and stuff like that. How did you get, from San Diego to Fox Sports Radio? How did that go?
Oh man, so I was in college, and I went to San Diego State, rocking the San Diego State polo. So I went to college, and originally I was going for journalism. I wanted to do sports writing, and I think I was in my sophomore year at San Diego State. I had a class that was in like another building. So I would always like walk the same path. I have like a lot of like rituals and I guess mild forms of OCD. So I always walk to class in the same kind of path in the same, through the same building. And I remember walking by this room, and I looked through the glass and I could barely see, kind of like almost looked like a radio station. And there was a board in there. There was a couple mics. There was like a couple TVs and like a wall of CDs. And I was like, oh man, like that's kind of cool. That's a radio station. I mean, at San Diego State, we have KPBS. I knew it wasn't KPBS, but I kind of saw, that radio station, kind of through the weeks, I would walk through that building to get to class. And then finally I ended up seeing somebody in the building. So I talked to them, and they told me, hey, this is KCR. This is the college radio, student-run radio station here at San Diego State. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. How do I get involved with this? They said, yeah, so whatever show you want to do, if you want to do a sports talk show, if you want to do a news show, if you want to do a music show, you're allowed to pretty much do whatever you want. So me and a friend, we started this like Chargers talk show. The Chargers were still in San Diego at the time.
Yeah.
So we started this Chargers talk show, and it was a weekly show, and we would talk Chargers sports once a week. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was at that moment that I kind of like stepped away from doing like the writing stuff. I ended up writing for the school paper a little later on, but I started to get more into radio just by talking on the mic. Like I remember we finished our first show, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't want to do, be stuck in a room writing and stuff, which I still love to write, but, being on the mic and being in kind of the, kind of the producer area is a lot of fun. So after college, I worked a couple of small jobs here and there, trying to find my way into 1090. And I got into 1090 just kind of on like by chance. It's kind of a long story, but I applied there many times, and 1090 was like this dream station that I always wanted to work at. At the time, it was the number one sports radio station in San Diego, and every single show that I loved, like all the hosts that I listened to, were on that station. And so I kept applying. I would go on the website like every week and apply. Dude, I applied to everything. I applied to like ad sales, like account executive. I applied to promotions assistant. I applied to, board op. I applied to like producer. And the only experience I had was, at San Diego State, which was, it was very simple there. It was literally you push a button to turn your mic on and you talked. Like the host was the producer, the host was, kind of did everything.
Yeah.
So I kept applying and applying and applying. And finally I kind of got some feedback from them asking if, I wanted to interview for a promotions assistant. And so I wrote back like enthusiastically, like, yes, I would love to, when can I interview? Like, I would love to do this. And the person who wrote me back the email, they just kind of ghosted me. They never wrote me back. So I was just like, I was kind of left out to dry in that situation. So what I ended up doing was this was after college. I was also doing volunteer work with San Diego State Media Relations. And at the time, San Diego State, their basketball and their football games and baseball were broadcasted on 1090. So I was at the basketball games helping out with, just running stat sheets to, journalists and the people who worked on TV and the people who worked in radio. And I ended up making a connection with someone who worked for 1090, who was a producer on a show. I told him like, hey, I applied. It didn't really the person didn't get back to me. Is there any way you could get this message to this person to set up an interview or something? Is there anything that you can do? And the person said, yeah, I can see what I can do. And it was a couple of weeks of kind of back and forth emailing. And, kind of to wrap it up, he basically said, that position we filled. However, I saw you applied for our board opposition. Do you know how to run a board? And I kind of lied. And I was like, yeah, I know how to run a board. I ran one at, San Diego State. How different could it be? And by the way, it was completely different. Like I said, what we did at San Diego State was not running a board at all. So I ended up interviewing and getting the job with them. I worked at 1090 for 2 years as a board op and a producer. And it was a lot of fun. I loved that job so much. And I still have a ton of love for the people who were at that station. All of the hosts, all the producers, I still kind of keep in touch with. But unfortunately, 1090 was kind of independently owned or independently run. It wasn't owned by Entercom or iHeartRadio, not any of these big kind of radio corporations that are able to fund these stations. So we were all kind of on our own. And eventually the radio station ran out of money and shut down. And actually, I was the last person running the board at 1090. Wow. When they pulled the plug on the entire station. It was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Our program director came in, and at the time we were off the air because they pulled us off the air for 2 weeks. And then we thought we were going to get back on the air eventually. So what we were doing in the meantime is we were just streaming. So we were streaming on the internet and we were streaming on our app. And then all of a sudden, the streaming on the app stopped in the middle of the show I was producing.
Whoa.
So I remember the technical producer, a bunch of other people who worked, someone who worked on the website. They were like, what the hell is going on? We don't have any feed for our radio station. And the program director came in and he said, hey, the stream's off, we're done. And I was in the hosts were in the middle of a segment. So I didn't know what to do.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is weird. That's a good story, actually, as much as it sucks.
It's a really good story, man. I remember it was the 2:00 hour. It was the 12 to 3 o'clock show. Okay. It was the Darren Smith show, which, by the way, Darren Smith in San Diego, one of my favorite radio hosts of all time. He's awesome. Nicest guy you'll ever meet. Him and his producer, Marty, they work so hard. and they really do a great show. So that's a great radio show if you really want to check something else out. And they're also in the Fox Sports Radio that's on a Fox Sports Radio station, an affiliate. Yeah. So yeah, it was the 2:00 hour. We just did the update. And I remember like behind me hearing like a little bit of a commotion, and they were maybe like 5 minutes into the segment. And I just hear like chattering in the back, like, hey, the app's not working, like we're not on stream. And so I believe it was the program director, the general manager came in, and he told me, he's like, hey, we just pulled the plug on the stream, like we're done. And I kind of looked in through the window to see if Darren saw what was going on, and they didn't. Like him and his co-host Marty, they just kept going. And he's like, are you going to tell them that the stream is off? And I'm like, I didn't know what to do because I was just filling in that day. And so the program director or the general manager walked down the hall into the studio area from the control room. And I got them on the mic. I actually have the last minute of the Mighty 1090, like to ever exist, which is the program director walking in, and you can hear him on the mic say, the stream is off. We've just been told by the parent company to shut it down. Wow. And like Darren just went, okay, and just took his headphones off, and that was it.
Wow.
So yeah, basically I lost my radio job right then and there. They told us to come in the next day. They gave us all a severance package, and that was it. Like I was out of radio for 2 years. And during those 2 years, my mom had some health problems and stuff, which thankfully she overcame, and she's doing well.
Nice.
And then so I thought, all right, 2020 is going to be my year, because 2019 was like kind of hellish. Like I lost the radio job. My mom was sick, but then everything at the end of the year started picking up. And I'm like, all right, 2020 is going to be my year. This is the year I'm going to get back into radio. This is the year I'm going to, start carrying on with my career. And then the pandemic hits. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. So life again got delayed another year.
Yep.
And I was just like, toward the end of 2020, I was just like down on my luck because, I had applied to so many jobs. I applied to just really anything I could in radio, anything I could find between like LA and San Diego, I was applying to. Like, I did not care. I was like, I will clean the floor of the studio. Like, I do not care. I just want to get back into radio. And excuse me, my mouth is dry. I got to get some ginger ale.
It's all good.
I've been talking for way too long.
Yeah.
So I was, I was just like anything I could do to get back into radio. And I applied to Fox Sports Radio. It was an editing position. It was an editor. So I applied to that, and I actually interviewed for this job back in February of last year. And I felt I did really well. I made it to like the second round of interviews, and our boss, Mike, Big Mike, called me, and he said, hey, I just wanted to call and let you know that you did an amazing job during the interviews, but unfortunately, we're going to go with somebody else. And I believe that person actually ended up being Ricky, which credit to FSR, because they made the right choice, because Ricky is awesome.
Yeah, Ricky's a really nice dude. Future guest, Ricky Herrera.
Ricky's the great. Yeah, Ricky is awesome, man. And so I was just kind of like down on my luck again. I was like, man, like I just can't catch a break. I just need anything. And a few months went by, and then I saw another opening from FSR. So I applied right away, and Big Mike wrote me back pretty much immediately and said, hey, I saw you applied, like, good looking out. I'll call you next week. And he called me and offered me the job, and here I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. And
yeah,
I know Ben Maller, who you've, worked with the past, and Coop got sick last week, and you took a couple shifts there. I know Ben, he talked about Mighty 1090 all the time. Like I know he had friends there. I don't remember who exactly. You'd probably know more than I would.
Yeah.
But you know, I knew that was a pretty, you know, I don't know if Ben Maller knows that about you. I think you bring it up next time you see him or work with him.
Yeah, so it's funny. Actually, the first time I filled in for Coop, I texted him just like a few hours before the show, just saying, "Hey Ben, like, if there's anything you need for tonight, like a rundown or a any sound or whatever, just let me know." And he's like, "Hey man, yeah." And so when I went in that night, I was talking to him down the line because he was doing the show from home that night.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, I noticed your phone number is a 619 phone number, which 619 is a San Diego area code."
Yeah. Yep.
He's like, "Are you from San Diego?" I said, "Yeah, I'm, born and raised in San Diego." And he said, he's like, "Yeah, I got my radio start down in San Diego." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Which station was it?" He said, I was on the Mighty 690, which 1090, it was originally the Mighty 690.
Yeah.
And then they switched it to the Mighty 1090 in 2003, I believe.
Yeah. That's how old Ben is. No, I'm playing.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of funny you brought that up. The same person who gave him his first radio job is a guy named Joe Totino. And Joe Totino was the guy who hired me. So wow. Ben and I basically started at the same kind of starting point. Same thing with Ralph Irvin. Ralph Irvin was also hired by Joe Totino.
Do you follow Ralph on Twitter? Our guy Ralph.
I follow him on Twitter.
He's been putting out some hot NBA Finals takes. Sunday night.
Oh, really?
It was Wreck-It Ralph. He was on. Look right now. At Ralph Irvin FSR for the listeners. Go back to Sunday when Game 2 happened. Our guy Ralph was going crazy. He hates the announcers. He hates I think Ralph's just a hater. It's funny.
Oh, Ralph is very stoic, but he's hilarious.
Yeah,
he's a fun guy to
one of my favorite Ralph stories. One of my favorite Ralph stories, and a lot of people don't know about this. Shout out Lee DeLapp, who came on a couple weeks ago, told me this Ralph story, and I don't know if Ralph wants this out there, but it was told on a podcast. You weren't there, but a couple years ago, there's a stent. That's funny. We'll get to that in a minute. FSR host who had kidney stones. Like it was Jason Smith, and then
wow.
And then Ramos, I think, had it for a little bit, and Ralph had it. And Lee DeLapp was doing this. I don't know if it's producing, editing, but according to Lee, Ralph walks up and he has a paper towel in his hand, and Lee's like, "All right, that's strange." Puts a kidney stone on Lee DeLapp's desk and was like, "I'm working," because all these guys were obviously at home because kidney stones are one of the worst pains you can feel in your life. And I don't know if you've had them. I haven't had them, thank God. From what I've heard, it sounds horrible.
My dad had one once, and my dad, he's one of those guys that will never call out sick.
Yeah,
he could have COVID, like and he'll go to work. He's like, yeah. He's a guy who never calls out sick or never leaves work either, unless it's like an emergency or something.
Yeah,
and he got a kidney stone one day. And that was one of maybe 5 times he's ever left work in his 35 years of working at this company.
That's crazy.
He was like, I was in so much pain. And yeah, but that's amazing. I could definitely see Ralph doing that. Ralph is here
you go.
Man,
I could hear him say, he'd be like, man. Here you go, Lee. I'm working.
He'll walk into he's fun to work with when he's doing the updates.
Were you there? Did you hear about the Ralph cursing story earlier this year, late last year?
I think it was it when he cursed during an update?
Yeah, it was Steve, Jeff, Danny, the real Don Brown. They had to, dump him because he said, "Oh shit," during a golf, he stumbled upon his words, and yeah, I heard that. I think somebody saved the audio. Yeah, it was
and when
Danny
I went
G
in later that day.
Don Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went in later that day, they were like, "Hey, check this out." And I mean, stuff like that happens. I mean, obviously Ralph didn't mean it. That
No, it's just
every now
funny
and
the way
then, you're
you know
gonna,
how Ralph does it.
yeah. The best is um I mean, I think it was Alex the other day, like a couple weeks ago. He had to dump himself. Like, it was the first time he was on the Odd Couple, and he like accidentally said "oh shit" or something like that, and
Yeah, it's funny when
he
that
had to dump
happens.
himself. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good, knock on wood. I've never had to be dumped. I feel like I have a pretty good
Well, Var Arrington gets dumped
kind
all
of
the time,
filter. Yeah.
and
Well,
they're open about it.
a few weeks ago, Roberto dumped himself too, but he intentionally did it, which was so funny.
Oh, Roberto.
Uh,
Roberto was the best
yeah.
laugh in radio, easily, hands
Oh
down.
man, that guy. I don't
I
work with
love
him too
Roberto.
often, but that guy is the funniest guy to work with.
Yeah, like
He's one of my favorites.
I listen, if you're on the YouTube, hold on, let me grab it on an Echo speaker, and
Mhm.
you know, obviously, not like the best quality, but good quality, and for Coop or whoever's producing will be doing their bit, and all you hear is from Roberto in the background.
Yeah.
Like I've never really him and John Ramos, who's a legend, who probably is too busy to come on this show. They they're the only two guys where you hear that, and it's the funniest thing. And Roberto just laughs at anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Roberto. I even told Roberto, I'm like, dude, you've got the best laugh. He's great, man. I think it was a couple weeks ago on like Two Pros. It was like Jonas's birthday or something, and and they were like, "How do you say happy birthday in Spanish?"
Oh,
and Roberto just goes, "No mames," and he dumped himself, which was awesome. And Jonas was dying too, because Jonas is like, he dumped himself. Like,
I think
that's
the
great
best,
because he did it for the bit. Yeah.
Roberto's really funny, and the guy who takes a random Thursday or Wednesday off to go to a Dodger game and then is back the next night. I think that's funny too. Like, who just takes a random Wednesday off to go to a Dodger game? But that's Roberto for you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about crazy, for the past like 5 minutes, crazy fun radio. Now you get that, starting out Sunday mornings with Andy Furman, Brian Noe, and, Brian Finley. What is your best Andy Furman story? This is a 2-part question. And has he sent you mail yet?
So Andy Furman has not sent me mail yet.
Whoa.
Andy Furman has also hardly ever gotten my Twitter name correct. Which is amazing. I think the best Andy story is him just not getting my Twitter name correct, because we've told him so many times. I even had him follow me. Like, during a break, I'm like, Andy, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go in the search bar and you're going to type in my name and you're going to hit follow. So that way, when you type in every single week who's going to be on the show, my name will come up and you just have to click it.
Yeah.
And the next week he didn't get it right. So at this point, I think it's funny. I don't mind it. I don't use Twitter too often anymore. I've since kind of tried to distance myself from Twitter, just like for my own personal mental health.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think the best Andy story is just him not getting my Twitter name correct. But Andy Furman is the sweetest guy in the world. He's so funny, and he's really funny to it's really funny to bust his balls on air, because he takes it so seriously, and he's so
the ticket story last weekend, that was so funny.
Yeah. I think Chris said, I'm going to court. Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to court. I got a ticket. It was like my first ticket ever.
That's not good. That's not good now.
My favorite story of that was him getting out of the car which like
Yeah.
someone who's never gotten pulled over in his life, and that's his first instinct. I had a friend do that too. One of my friends got pulled over and he got out of the car, and I was like, why would you get out of the car? That's like threatening
I don't
to
know.
a cop.
Yeah, it seemed like Andy Furman also like, I don't know if he just exaggerated or if he couldn't stop on the freeway, but it seemed like he like didn't know the guy was going for Andy, which was even better. He's like, is it going for me? Like,
yeah.
And Andy Furman has the best out of context drops. Chris Perfett has a whole wall just ready to, hit at like all times. Like there's always an Andy drop for anything. And that's, credit to Jonas Knox, who back in his producer days would, whatever Andy would say, anything remotely out of context, he'd make it out of context. And it's one of the FSR legends. Like you have Andy, like, I need a mature man. And then like, I'm jerking off. I'm like, how did that happen? Like, some of them, I don't even know how they even got. Like,
my favorite is, they call him the Sperminator. Like that one, I want to know the context.
Yeah.
Because his teases, like his little teases, he starts teases like that. I want to know what the payoff was on that particular tease. Like what?
That would be Jonas would probably know, actually. Jonas or somebody, probably Jonas or Eddie. But let's move away from Andy and Brian for a little bit here. Now, I'm assuming since you're a San Diego guy, you're a Chargers Padres fan. And what's your basketball team?
So I am an ex San Diego Charger fan. I do not root for the Chargers anymore now that they're in Los Angeles. But I was a diehard fan when they were in San Diego. Like every single Sunday, I was with my family, with friends, watching the game, and I got super, super, super into it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like homeless from a football team now. I kind of just watch, specific players, but honestly, the last few years, I've been really, really liking the Buffalo Bills. And my dad, when he was younger, grew up a Bills fan. And being from San Diego State, which is a Mountain West school, I saw Josh Allen play in college, and he destroyed San Diego State. Like he just destroyed us, which looking back on it, when people like Josh Allen got selected, everybody was unsure about him. Yeah. And I was just like, you guys have not watched this guy play. This guy is insane. So I'm a big Josh Allen fan. So I guess I'm kind of a Buffalo Bills fan in a way. But to answer your question, I do not have a basketball team either. Again, being from San Diego, like we kind of have there's like this rivalry with LA, kind of. Like they took the Chargers from us, and like, LA and the Padres are always kind of like they go at it with each other. So like I didn't grow up a Lakers fan. I didn't really grow up a Clippers fan either, because technically the Clippers left San Diego too, but that was well before I was born. So I guess to answer your question, my basketball team, really, being from San Diego State, I guess I'm a Clippers fan now because that's where Kawhi Leonard goes.
Yeah.
So I root for Kawhi Leonard. Wherever he's at, that's kind of where I root for. So I've been like a Spurs fan. I've been a Raptors fan. I've been a Clipper fan. And as far as baseball goes, I'm actually, my dad is a Yankees fan. My dad and myself are Yankee fans. Derek Jeter, I grew up as he's my favorite player, but I still love the Padres, being from San Diego. So it helps because they're both in, separate leagues. One's in the AL, one's in the NL.
Yeah.
So it's like I can root for both of them. But I heard someone describe another two teams that they like kind of like this. I guess you could say the Yankees are family to me, and like the Padres are really close friends that you call family.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you're going to pick your family, but you also back your friends at the same time. So that's kind of how I am with the Padres and the Yankees, which they're both doing great. I mean, they're both doing awesome this year. So super stoked about them.
Yeah, I'm a Seahawks fan for football. I like the Blazers for basketball, but MLB is where it gets weird because I grew up listening to FSR and, I follow Bo Benson and Bursch and Roberto on Twitter. I like the Mariners, but I like the Dodgers too. Like that, they're an interesting team, and I don't know why. Like I think I just like they're an easy team to root for, and I don't know if I'd rock gear, but I like them. Now, yeah. Emmett Douglas, Blindside Sports. Moving on to another question here. Have you watched the NBA Finals? Are you paying attention at all, or should I scrap the question?
Before I came on with you, I was like, I don't know if I know he's going to ask me about the NBA Finals. I don't know if I've really watched that much of it, but that's okay. Like I don't like Boston because being a Yankees fan, I do not like anything from Boston. So I'm rooting for the Warriors. I have some friends who are big Warrior fans too that I went to college with. So, I like seeing them have success, but I mean, as far as the series in itself, I think it's a great series. From what I've seen from it, which has only been like a handful of minutes and highlights here and there. I hate to be one of those like, if so-and-so wins this game, I think they're going to win the series. But I really do think whoever wins this next game, game 4, is going to be the series winner. I think if the Celtics win game 4 and go up 3-1, I can't see the Warriors coming back from that deficit.
Yep.
And I feel like if the Warriors win game 4 to tie the series up, I don't think Boston could take 2 of 3 from Golden State in Golden State if the series were to go 7 games. So I think whoever wins game 4 wins the series.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that, Brandon, because you follow me on Twitter, and I don't know if you saw it, but I had the Warriors in 6 at first. And I don't see the Warriors grabbing 3 straight. I mean, I think they're going to come back and pull through game 4. And I think Draymond Green is going to have to do something else and foul out and get these tees and only score 2 points and focus, seem like all he cares about is podcast. So I think he needs to do more. And that's the thing with the Warriors. Like, I've seen people on Twitter just bash Draymond. It's like, yeah, but then again, it's kind of hard to bash the guy when Draymond is either in foul trouble or teed up or not on his A game or injured. The Warriors are not very good. Draymond Green kind of runs the show. He's like Chris Perfett. Like he dishes out the dimes. And I think, Draymond, he needs to do better. The Curry ankle injury is a little bit scary to me. He's had ankle injuries, before, had one this season. And the Celtics, man, they're a really young team and they're really hungry to win it. Ime Udoka, the head coach, is a pretty good coach. Outcoached, most of the teams he's played this, all the teams so far, like outcoached Steve Nash, outcoached Budenholzer, and outcoached Spoelstra, I'd say. And whoever wins game 4, I think it's definitely going to have a momentum. The momentum. I mean, if the Warriors can grab it in Boston, then that's huge. Go back to Golden State just after the win, go up 3-2. But I think the Celtics, they're going to have a chip. They're going to have a fight. And it's not even like Jason Tatum, who's doing good. Like, yeah, he's been like dishing the ball up. I had like 9 assists, all that. But like Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Pritchard, Jalen Smart, like the Celtics are, I picked the Warriors. I thought the Warriors were a really deep team, and they still are. You can't deny that. But I think the Celtics, man, they're going to put up a fight. I'm not going to dish my pick because I'm not Arnie Spanier, and I don't change up my picks every 2 weeks. I still think the Warriors are going to win it. But 6 games, I think that's very unlikely. I mean, the Celtics have so much just intensity on that court where they're gonna get angry if the Warriors tie it at 2 on which is tomorrow actually. So I think this is there's been a couple blowouts and basketball wise.
The next game is tomorrow.
Is it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is game 4? Are you sure? Yeah. They don't need a week in between each game like they have been. This whole series.
Yeah. I'm hoping that like I graduate on the 15th, and I'm hoping there's not a game then. Yeah, and tomorrow's my last day ever of school, so I'm gonna have to DVR the finals. Awesome. So yeah, and then I'm going to Washington State University to study journalism, and I'm minoring in communication, so I can.
Congratulations, man! That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
I've been covering what I can with the finals. Sometimes it's kind of hard to watch when they're at like 5 or 6 o'clock. I mean, watch live. It's a little hard, but the games have been blowouts. But I think the Celtics are a very angry team, and I think once the Warriors do something, the Celtics are gonna come back with revengeance and make it really hard, and the Warriors are gonna have to fight. And they need Steph Curry to not have this injury be lingering.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Curry has been ruled out for game 4.
I don't think he has. That's been Steve Kerr's not too
confirmed.
Worried.
But no, I think Steph's going to play. And I mean, like you were saying, man, I think, the difference between the teams is that the Celtics are very physical. So the Celtics can get in kind of Draymond's head. And if they could try to draw him into playing a little more physical than Draymond already does, and Draymond starts getting into foul trouble or he picks up another flagrant, I think that's going to be rough on the Warriors. But
yes,
at the same time, Steph Curry, I think is the best shooter to ever play the game.
Agreed.
It's really impressive though what Jason Tatum has been able to do. Like that guy is a superstar in this league. Like what he's been able to do this postseason, like putting the team on his back and scoring 40 plus points. He has the ability to do that. But I agree with you, man. I think really it's going to come down to tomorrow's game is going to basically decide who has momentum the rest of the way throughout the series. And I think ultimately the winner of game 4 will win the series.
Interesting take by you. Brandon Truffa at BTruffles on Twitter and Insta with us here. Now, one more sports question. And I'm sure something else will come up.
Yeah.
Now, Deshaun Watson, new quarterback of the Browns, he's been in the news as of late. And, my next solo episode, I will go more in depth on this one because it's a really interesting topic and, there's a lot to talk about. But I want to get your thoughts. How long do you think he's going to get suspended? How long, if you were the commissioner, how long would you suspend him for? And what are your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns? Do you have do you think it's a bad look after, what they've done and not knowing the certainty of what's up with Deshaun Watson? Do you think it's, you can't blame them? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's absolutely a bad look. I don't see how Cleveland thought it was a right move, especially with so much uncertainty surrounding him and so much and what was going on at the time. I don't think it was the right move at all to, number one, trade for a guy like that. I mean, it's one thing to trade for him, but when you make him like the highest paid, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, and you give him a 5-year, $230 million guaranteed contract, what does that go to show? Like what you are looking into for your players? They're like, it's kind of hard because there hasn't been any criminal charges brought against him. But at the same time, 24 women, like 24 civil suits.
And it's not even that.
A ton.
66 massages. Like,
yeah. And what we're kind of seeing now is like, this was like borderline like addiction. This was a system that he had in place to kind of get to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess if I was commissioner, the first thing I would do is I would put him on the commissioner's exempt list, like completely bar him from kind of doing anything at this point and saying, until we can figure this out, you're not going to play.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of a suspension, I mean, the Bauer suspension kind of sets the precedent right now for like what stuff like this could lead to. I think I actually agree with Jason Smith. I think he cannot play football in 2020. I think if the NFL has any sort of morality, they would just say, no, he's not going to play football this season.
Yeah.
And I think for the foreseeable future, I think, you know, it's really tough. It's a very it's a disgusting situation, and I hate talking about it, but it is something important that we have to address and we have to talk about.
Agreed.
It's an uncomfortable topic, but it's also something that needs to be brought attention to. And I was going to say another thing. Oh, so the Browns, you know, I honestly don't see, you know, I think a lot of people gave Baker Mayfield kind of, you know, a little too much. I think Baker can still play. I'm one of the very few people who actually thinks that Baker Mayfield can still play and can still bring some sort of winning culture to an organization. I don't think Baker Mayfield was the problem in Cleveland. He was playing the last 2 seasons hurt. Okay, so you have to take that into a factor.
His breakout year was, you know, crazy. And, you know, what I'll say about Baker is he needs, you know, it's some like quarterbacks, you can just have them and they will do good. Baker, if he has, you know, he's not like that, but if he has a setup, we saw what he did in 2020 with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Landry, and that Browns team improved. Like they made a couple moves defensively, but injuries, man, that's really what it is.
He's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but if you put the right pieces around him, I still believe he could at least get you into the playoffs. And he could, and really the playoffs in the NFL are all about getting hot, man.
Yep.
It's that when it comes down to that, it's just who's the hottest team at the moment. Anybody can win those games. We saw what happened with Tampa this year. It's like anything can happen in the playoffs. You just need a quarterback who can get you there. And I think Baker is still the guy who can get you there. He's not going to put up, you know, 100 yards. You know, he's not going to put up crazy statistics. But
very
he's
average.
At least going to give you wins. Yes. Yeah.
So, So, you know, a couple things I want to say about the Deshaun situation, and I'll get some thoughts and save it for another episode that could be coming out soon, you know, make the audience dig into it a little bit. Now, it's disgusting. It's a horrible situation. And I don't have too much faith in the NFL on this suspension. I really don't. I there's a difference between, and this is why I pose the question, what I think and what I think he deserves. Because if I were the commissioner, I'd be going the Jason Smith way. But I just don't. I just don't know how the NFL they just, I don't think they care. But then this is a situation where you have to care. If Deshaun Watson gets out, you know, with like a 6-game suspension, then the NFL is going to be under so much fire. But the thing is with the NFL too is, they can be under fire, but people are still going to watch them. People are still going to, you know, pay for all the subscriptions, go see their team. It won't matter too much. But I think the NFL is in a situation where they have to do something. If they don't do something, that's embarrassing and they should be ashamed of themselves. Like, okay, when it's 5 women, okay, maybe. But it's to the point where you said it. It's most likely an addiction. 24 women, and that's not even the people filed suits on him. There's like 66 different.
I will say, like, sorry. Maybe I'll clarify it. It could be an addiction, but it is definitely a system that he had put in place to get what he wanted. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
He's not, you know, last point on this, and then we'll move over to a couple other questions. You brought up Jason Smith. I have to ask you about something. I just feel like, you know, God, where was I gonna go? Oh yeah, he's just not handled himself well at all throughout all of this, right? Like tweeting out, stupid stuff, saying, "Oh, I have a girlfriend in a presser." Just because you have a girlfriend doesn't mean you can't get a massage and be a weirdo. But anyways, moving on now. One of my favorite bits in radio as of late, as we start the NBA playoffs, is the Magic Johnson Twitter game. I don't know why, but Magic Johnson's tweets are strangely interesting, and I like them. So, what's it like, I know producer Frostberg's back full time, but what was it like, working with Jason Smith and Mike Harmon, playing the Magic Johnson Twitter game, doing all that?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Jason and Mike are two guys who are great. Jason is super, super nice. And Mike, I get to work with, I get to work with him on the weekend with Bucky. Bucky's the best, brings in donuts almost every week.
Does he goes in studio?
Yeah, Bucky's in studio. Same with Mike. Harmon's a good guy too. They're just a lot of fun to work with. Like, I really am kind of like a little bit blessed that, we were put in that situation where, Frostberg was working at home. So we had to kind of be in that room with them because, that was basically doing producer training every single night. So like when they actually trained me to do producing, I'm like, oh, I've already done all this before. Like, this is just repeating stuff that I already know how to do. So it was very fortunate in that sense. But, Jason and Mike are just great characters to work with. And yeah, the Magic Johnson Twitter game, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Especially like, I love that DeSager gets in on it too. Cause we have
I gotta ask you about
one-liners.
That DeSager,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I know I think it was like Dawn who was somebody was in there, and they do the Magic Johnson Twitter game and DeSager's just vanished. And it was like 8:50, like our time. So like you still had a couple hours left. And gets to the top of the hour and I hear the Mets beat the whatever. I'm like, is Jason Smith doing the update? Were you there when Steve DeSager had to ride the vomit comet? So Jason Smith had to do the update?
I was not there. No, I wasn't there.
If you can find the audio, when next time you're in the Fox Sports Radio studios, if you can, or even text Teicher, he wasn't in there that night. But if he I'm sure he has it, or Don Brown could find it. But Jason Smith did the top of the hour update.
Yeah, I heard about it. I didn't. I was not there to witness it, but I certainly heard about it. And I can only imagine he brought up the Mets probably 30 to 40 times. Yeah, 30 to 40 times during the update. It was funny, the other night the Mets were playing the Padres, and Jason was in studio, and I started singing the Let's Go Padres song in front of him. And he was like, you know what? You can just sit in the AP room the rest of the night. Just sitting there. I
remember
it was playful banter.
One of my favorite playful banter Jason Smith stories involves the great Isaac Lowenkron. Oh, I wish I had the drops of Isaac Lowenkron. But he was, working the Jason Smith show, like very, very rare. And it was the night the Mets just choked to the Phillies. He first, Isaac Lowenkron, the Lord of Trending, he is a wordsmith. He puts together his updates, like the way he does it with the audio and like the memes from like the 90s and the movies. Like, it's funny. In the first line, well, Jason Smith's Mets choked tonight, and then played some audio and the whole like 4-hour show, every update. Right. And it got to the point where Jason's like, I might just use the bathroom during Ilo's updates because he keeps bringing the Mets up. And because the Mets, like, it was beginning of the season, I think, maybe like second ever series. Like, this was this year. Like, after it was like the Monday or Tuesday after the first weekend series, and Ilo was in, and the Mets were up like 4. I was watching the game too, and I leave and come back, and the Mets choked, and Ilo just was going in on Jason Smith, trolling him, using his audio clips that, we actually have live audio of this, and would play some audio clips. And I think Isaac Lowenkron is up there in the update anchor tier list of me. He's funny, and the way he trolled Jason Smith was just great, and I respect it.
Yeah, Ilo always makes it fun. I get to work with him on believe it's on Sunday mornings when
Yep.
during Mike and
With
Bucky's
Bucky.
show during the last I think it's the last 4 hours of that shift. And yeah, Ilo's really fun to work with. Him and I playfully, jab each other because he recently got hired, I believe, to do play-by-play for Angel City FC, which is
Wow.
the new women's soccer team up here in Los Angeles. And San Diego just got the San Diego Wave, who are another, professional women's soccer team down in San Diego. So when I heard he got the Angel City job, I said, "Oh, congratulations on getting the Angel City job, man. I'm happy for you." He's like, "Hey, thank you." And I said, "By the way, go Wave." And he was like, "No, no." Like he got like, so we playfully, I playfully will throw jabs at him, at his team, and he playfully throws jabs at mine.
He works for the Chargers too. I don't know if you know that, but I have
He does.
I pay for the radio, the NFL, like the Game Pass or whatever, and I have Red Zone on on my computer, or I'll have on my TV. And a couple months ago, Matt Money Smith, the Chargers, usual play-by-play, got the vid-19, and I see Isaac on Twitter like, I'm stepping in. So like the Seahawks are playing like the Jaguars without Russell Wilson. So I'm like, I'm not gonna watch the Seahawks game. So I listened to Ilo for, I think he did 2 or 3 games, and he brought the energy, man. And I was like, wow, this guy calls games really well. And I know he does like some like college team. I think like Bakersfield or something like that. He does some college basketball stuff.
He does some other play-by-play. I believe DeSager works for the Chargers as well.
Yeah, DeSager, I think he's the stat guy. I think I saw a video on Twitter of him like vibing to music, and someone quoted it and said, "There's Steve DeSager."
There was another one that I recently saw or was made aware of where it was like during the game or during one of the quarters or before the game. I can't remember. But Matt Money Smith was doing something, and Steve walked up next to him to like show him some stats or read something to him. And the song "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins was playing in the background.
That might have been the one.
It was right before the drum solo. So like as the drum solo hits, like Matt Money Smith like pushes his chair back and like does the air drum type thing. And Steve DeSager like jumped out of the way because he thought something was wrong. Like, and I didn't realize it was Steve DeSager until someone pointed it out for me.
Who was it? Alex?
I was like, all right. It was Bo. I think Bo made me aware of it.
Oh, but I love Bo. Bo is an ultimate, talk about troll like Isaac and Jason, but Bo is the ultimate Twitter troll. Like some of the stuff I see from Bo makes me like want to delete Twitter sometimes. That was a joke, but
Bo is awesome.
Yeah. Shout out Bo Benson and his wife, Bo and his wife had a kid. So, funny story. Speaking of Bo, I was gonna do the Swing Shift Emmett episode, right? Bursch thought of it, and I was like, that's a great idea. So, we did it on like a Friday night. Well, we were gonna do it. We ended up doing it, but we'll get to that. And I'm in class, and I get a message from Bershinger, a text, and he's like, "Hey, Bo, his wife went into labor, and do you still want to do the show or just be us two?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." But it got me thinking. I'm like, what if this happened in the middle of us recording the episode? Like, if I recorded it 3 hours earlier, this could have happened. Like
that might be your most reviewed episode.
Yeah, with your Bo, like, I need to go and like log off. And
yeah,
I think Bo's a professional. He'd play it off well, but
yeah.
Well, I had a Mauer Militia one too, where I had Eddie Garcia on, and I don't know if you know the beef between the Mauer Militia and William Shatner.
I'm
Eddie
not
was,
too familiar with it.
oh, it was, basically a thing. And Ben, that they had some words, and Shatz went on a blocking spree. You might be blocked by William Shatner on Twitter. I don't know. You should look, but like, I know, like, I think like Rob Guerra, Coop, I think Danny G and Bobo, Roberto, like Eddie, all of those guys were blocked. And it gets brought up on my show with Eddie Garcia. And he logs on to Twitter and he's like, I wonder if I'm still blocked. So he goes to the William Shatner Twitter, and he wasn't, right? And we didn't notice for after the show, but I made a tweet saying, broke some news for, the Maller Militia. Eddie Garcia has been unblocked by William Shatner. And I get a text from Eddie, and he's like, oh, I wish I did, but it was on my Puck podcast account, which I don't know how he hasn't blocked that one yet, but he's he's unblocked on the Puck podcast account. So, I mean, he runs the account. So, I mean, I get it wasn't like too bad of breaking news, but
I think it's funny when you find out you've been randomly blocked by somebody. Like, you'll just...
I know, like Ben Maurer is blocked by Deshaun Watson, which is hilarious. And
oh, geez,
Justin in Cincinnati, a loyal listener, is blocked by Deshaun Watson as well.
Yeah, I think I actually think Deshaun put his Twitter on like private, or his tweets were protected a couple days ago.
I follow him, so it didn't really affect me, but I just follow him because, like, when so I remember when this whole story broke with the first woman suing Deshaun, it was like probably like 1 a.m. Texas. It broke late. Like, I think it was at the start of Ben's and of Jason's show, and I go on Twitter and I'm like, I wonder, is Deshaun, like, does he have no life where he tweets at 1 a.m. about this? And he did. So I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what this guy says during during all this. And he stayed quiet after that one tweet saying he was innocent. And then as I still remember, like, how, day by day last year, lawsuit. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Deshaun's a weirdo. And then we're still talking about it to this day without a solution. So yeah, definitely crazy. Brandon Truffa at B Truffles joined me for this episode. If you guys are new, make sure you subscribe or download, share with your friends, because word of mouth advertising is the best. Because hey, if I were to share it, who cares? But if you say, hey, it's a good podcast, your friends will be more likely to check it out. Follow mine and Brandon's socials. And Brandon, do you do anything else besides FSR that people could check out?
No, not really. No, not really. I don't have any other podcasts, or I don't have any streaming or Twitch or anything. I just just listen to Fox Sports Sunday from 3 to 10 on Fox Sports Radio, 3 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Brandon
Pacific
doesn't
time.
sleep. If you can't tell, 3 to 10. That's a big overnight shift.
It is. It's a little rough. You tend to kind of like adjust. I've got a little system on how to do it. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me on. Great job doing what you're doing. You're already kind of ahead of the game. I know you do you want to get into radio at all?
Yes.
Is that kind of your dream?
Yep, sports radio, and I know it's going to be a long ride, so prepare for the ride. Purdue. I think I'm gonna end up running the board for a little bit. Get my name in the, get the experience down, and then go from there.
Yeah, man. Like, that would be my best advice to you. Like, you're already kind of ahead of the game doing a podcast, but any way you can, hit up your local stations, hit up your college stations.
That's my plan. Yep.
Even TV stations too. They're looking like, even producing goes into that as well. So,
oh yeah.
Any way you can get in the door, whether it's promotions, whether it's running a board, whether it's, even low producing or assistant producing or stuff, get in, because, it's from myself, from someone who had been out of the game for a little bit. It's very hard to get back in, but once you're in radio, you kind of like have a little bit easier time moving around. So that would be my best advice to you, man, would be, find some sort of internship, even if it's just screening calls, even if you're just picking up the phone and listening to Holler and James snore while, he's on air.
Or Blind Scott scream at the top of his lungs.
Yeah, even if you got to do that for, a year or two, at least you're in the door and, someone will hire you, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'll have a solo episode, now that I'm basically done with school. I'll have more time to, grind out the shows. So expect more episodes, more interviews, and thanks for watching. See ya.